I'm live once again. I don't mean to be going live too much or just for nonsense, but I'm in full disclosure mode as usual. That's just me. I want to update and announce my new approach to maybe scales and whatever goes with them, harmony too, I guess. I hate to say it, but yet I don't know why I hate to say it, but I'm leaning toward Alan Holdsworth's 10 most useful scales as my theory to go with. He is the greatest guitarist that ever lived, according to many people. I just didn't want to copy him, and I didn't want to acquiesce that he has the best model to date of scales. But the more I think about it and play, I guess I'm learning that that's what I'm really going to be basing a lot of my stuff on, I think. So I like to go over what his 10 most useful scales are since I'm talking, He put out he talked about them in his REH video in 1992, instruction video. He has 10 most useful scales. So scale 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't remember the exact order of the first four, but I know what they are. He basically takes the four permutations of 7 notes that you can get without having augmented thirds or diminished thirds is the major scale, harmonic minor scale, melodic minor scale, and harmonic major scale. But he doesn't call it that and in there. He bases everything on D or an alteration or alterations of a Dorian mode, because it's a major scale in C major starting on D is Dorian mode. He doesn't call it D Dorian though, he calls it DX or just a D minor, but whatever. Basically the 4 scales, if you reduce them to Dorian and then alterations of that, the first scale obviously is D Dorian, which is what I call it. Then you have and the next alteration is a D Dorian with a raised 7th, which is a D melodic minor scale. And then the third scale would be a D Dorian with a raised 7th and a flatted 6th. That would be a D harmonic minor scale. And the fourth scale would be a D Dorian with a raised 7th and a raised 4th. That would be a D Lydian minor scale, which is the 4th mode of A harmonic major. So everything's in minor. Everything starts based on Dorian, and then he alters it from there. So you have D Dorian as scale 1, D melodic minor scale 2, D harmonic minor is scale 3, and D Lydian minor, which really is a D Lydian mode with a flatted 3rd, is scale 4. And then not finally yet, but next he has the next 4 scales are what he calls jazz scales. They're scales that start with 7 notes and then you add an 8th note to it, and that's what I haven't learned yet. I think I want to learn those because I think it's interesting. So he starts with any 7-note scale, which is a mode of any of the scales of the first 4 scales, or the first 4 scales themselves, and then adds an 8th note. So you have an 8-note scale, and I'm going to learn these. I'm interested in to see how he adds the notes and what notes he adds and how he plays it, because I think it's an advancement. It is literally an advancement from just playing 7 notes and all their permutations. How about adding an 8th note? It's not unprecedented in the sense that everybody knows a minor pentatonic scale is 5 notes, but then a blues scale is a minor pentatonic scale with an added flat 5 note to make it 6 notes. And nobody complains and says, "Oh my God, we're gonna die." Everybody just calls that a blues scale. Well, maybe a 7-note scale with an added 8th note could be called the jazz scale. That's what he kind of calls them. And he says there's 3, but there's actually 4. That's a faux pas on his part. But anyway, the next 4 scales are the jazz scales he talks about. That makes 8 scales. And then scale 9 is the diminished scale. We all know that, at least commonly known. It's just whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. He calls it double diminished, but it's a diminished scale. And then the 10th and last scale is one of the Machon modes. It's basically a 9-note scale consisting of half step, whole step, half step, half step, whole step, half step, half step, whole step. It's essentially can be thought of as 3 augmented triads in chromatic succession, or circle of fifth succession for that matter, and then missing one of the four possible augmented triads. One is omitted, leaving only 9 notes in the scale. It's a Michon mode, and it's kind of symmetric. It's a scale of limited transposition, and it's one of the Michon modes that if that's his 10th scale. So I think I'm leaning toward that is my theory also. Except I might go more into the Michon modes than he does. Two of the Michon modes are literally, I think they're the first 2 Michon modes. I could be wrong about that. Maybe this is the first and third. I don't know. I'd have to check. Maybe it's the second and third. I think what his last 2 scales are among the first 3 Michon modes is what I feel. Because the first 3 Michon modes are, in whatever order, I'm not sure, a whole tone scale, diminished scale, and then Alan's symmetrical augmented 9-note scale. Those are the first 3 Michon modes. So then there's also 4 more. So there's those to look at. There's also Alan Holdsworth's way of looking at everything based on D, which is logical, I think, and also his 4 jazz scales that are actually 8-note scales, 7-note scales with an added 8th note. And along with this, I'm getting more adventurous in my playing as well. I'm starting to play augmented triads, augmented arpeggios more usually, as material for my solos and leads. I like the augmented triad sound. It's very Debussy-ish, and it's also very much like Alan Holdsworth. So, and I like the diminished 7th sound. That's very Mozart-ish. It's very Bach-ish, but it's a cool sound too. And of course, the literal whole tone scale, which it could be thought of as 2 augmented triads a whole tone apart, or even two augmented triads a diminished 5th apart, or tritone apart, would be a whole tone scale also. Very Debussy-ish, very. Maybe even Stravinsky-ish, I'm not sure, but anyway, that's my new ideas. Love you guys. Peace, rock and roll.